It's Middays, and we are live today from the beautiful Mississippi Gulf Coast at the Coast Convention Center for the annual conference of the Mississippi Municipal League. This is when all of the municipal and county leaders assemble to learn from each other and learn from those that keep up with this sort of stuff in governing municipalities and counties. And we are pleased to welcome now the Mayor of Hattiesburg, Mississippi, Mayor Toby Barker. Good to see you again, Mayor.
Glad to be here.
So this is always a great event, is it not? And what I really enjoy seeing, Mayor, is you guys talking to each other. And I know you're sharing ideas, what works, what doesn't work. Do you find that to be pretty valuable?
Absolutely. And when you bring together over 290 cities, towns, and villages to talk about issues we're all facing, it's different scales of the same issues. And so, you get to have some really good classes. You get to have conversation with subject matter experts, particularly from the state agency side. You get to share kind of struggles and challenges that everyone's facing and trading ideas on that. And I'll tell you, Mississippi has some really good mayors, present company excluded, and who are really thought leaders who are in it every day. And I can't tell you how much I learned from folks, like Dan Gibson in Natchez and Robin Tannehill in Oxford, George Flaggs in Vicksburg. It really is a learning by just having the conversation.
Yeah. So, so much of the electorate, voters, citizens in general, we're just inundated with state issues, with federal issues. But there's a lot that happens at the local and county level that affects their lives.
I would say the level of government that is closest to people, because it actually affects the quality of life, is at the municipal level. Because if the garbage doesn't get picked up, that'll give you a bad day. If you hit a pothole and it knocks your alignment out, that's going to give you a bad day. That'll really hit your pocketbook. And so I think municipal issues are by far the most important.
Yeah. And folks feel closer in general to their elected leaders at the municipal and county levels. I know you're no stranger to that. You get contacted all the time from your constituents, do you not?
It's an everyday thing. I mean, it's what you sign up for. But I think you when you sign up and you run, you sort of accept the fact that it may be a 24/7 job, and it likely will be. And social media has only made that even more intense.
That's right.
Because they can reach you on Facebook, Instagram, whatever now.
Exactly right. So you are presently serving, correct, as the president of the Mississippi Municipal League. You have for the last year. And so we have a successor. Is that right?
Billy Now from Cleveland, and who is a great mayor. And if you haven't been to Cleveland lately, I would encourage you to go up there and check out their downtown and all that he's done to help facilitate that. He also has a great town gown partnership with Delta State, and just really is a thoughtful, positive municipal leader for Cleveland, and I know he's going to be one for the league.
Yeah, so and that's a good point you bring up. He, of course, being the mayor of Cleveland, the home of a university, you being the mayor of Hattiesburg, home of course, Southern Mississippi. How does that make the job a little different than, say, being the leader of a city where you don't have a college that's embedded in the town there?
Well, I think, having a university in your town, in our case having two universities, you really start to understand how the energy of a community, how the attitude of a community can be shaped and enhanced and amplified when you have a really strong partnership with your university, and I would even say with your community college or your high school. And really, I think regardless of what town, if a mayor can create those partnerships between the educational institutions, the athletic teams, it can really carry a different energy, and it will change, your citizens' mindset and what they take pride in.
Yeah. Well, and Mississippi has a number of towns with fantastic universities, no doubt about it. And many of them, of course, benefit from the fact that those universities are part of that town. I've got to believe that Hattiesburg benefits greatly from both USM and, of course, William Carey.
Absolutely. And one, your population never stays stagnant. You're going to have a couple thousand new citizens that come in every year, and a lot of those are going to choose to stay. And I think about Southern Miss and the culture, whether it's the arts or whether it's polymer science, that has totally changed the way Hattiesburg operates. Or William Carey, which is now the largest medical school in the state, and how those folks come to do their medical degree, and they stay and do their residency, and they buy houses, and they're involved in the community. It really does change the worldview of an area.
Mayor, what's the buzz among the municipal leader community this year? What are you guys talking about? What are your major challenges?
Well, I think, one, it's a sigh of relief because of the PERS thing. And I know
Yeah.
you and I have had many conversations on this issue, but we cannot thank the legislature, the House, the Senate, for listening to cities. And I will tell you that cities were the first one out last year to talk about this issue.
Right.
More than counties, more than school districts. The cities jumped out there first and said, hey, this is going too far. And so to not have a 5-point increase in our employer contribution, but instead have a 2.5% spread over 5 years, and then having the legislature take the authority from the board to unilaterally raise employer contributions, I think it creates a more balanced conversation going forward. And so I think there's a lot of relief right now, especially as we head into budget setting season. But also as we look forward, Mayor now will have to deal with the tax conversation. How will any shift of grocery tax and income tax affect local municipalities? Because quite frankly, most of our cities, towns, and villages are small ones. And so when you cut the grocery tax, unless there's a more comprehensive approach, there's concerns among cities. But I do think the one thing that we've seen with Lieutenant Governor Hoseman and Speaker Jason White is we have policy leaders now in Jackson who listen. Jason White is a city attorney, and so he has former mayors on his staff, and so I think we'll have a great conversation going forward about how we can give some tax relief to everyday Mississippians while also making sure we're not putting cities in a bad way. I think Medicaid expansion is a conversation that we look forward to as well, and then also how to fund our MDOT roads and bridges going forward and with some recurring revenue. And so I think all those things are things we're excited about. I mean.
Well, speaking of the roads and bridges, that stuff's not getting any younger. It's aging by the day, and it's constant. It's continuous. It's a huge part of your budget and a huge part of your responsibility as a municipal leader, as a mayor.
The worst thing you can get is a surprise call that says, "Hey, we're going to shut this bridge down."
Yeah.
And again, I can't thank the legislature enough for the Mississippi Modernization Act in 2018, but also a lot of the post-COVID federal dollars that have now been coming our way, and a lot of the programs that created the excess revenue that we've had. And you've seen the state and the legislature really make one-time investments, but also very much needed one-time investments that we can turn into capital projects. Whether it's the bill that has all the projects for all the communities that comes out the last three years they've had that, whether it's the ERBR program where they make direct appropriations into bridges in local communities. I think all those things have helped. The lottery. The question for Brad White and MDOT is how do you give them, once all this post-COVID money is dried up, and we're starting to see it kind of wane, once all the bipartisan infrastructure law money goes away or is reauthorized, how do you give MDOT a recurring source of revenue that they can not just be a maintenance agency, but one that's actually building the capacity for the future? Because, as you said today, the last time they really addressed the mechanisms that address revenue, it was 1987. Brad White was 10 years old, and so I was 5. So we got to figure out a way to put them on some sure footing in the long term.
He's definitely been very outspoken, as have the other commissioners as well, about finding some sort of recurring revenue stream so that they could use that to match up with federal funding available to take on some of these projects. The expansion projects, can't remember exactly what the terminology is they use for that, but you got the maintenance side and you got the new side, essentially. And he said, yeah, we got to have that in order to tap some of this money that's available to us. Essentially, we're sending taxes to Washington for.
Well, yeah, and like, for example, in Hattiesburg, we've got the intersection of 40th Avenue and Hardy Street, which is the intersection I hear most about right now, under MDOT's purview. But you have to wait until it comes on their calendar because, I don't think folks realize, when you're dealing with federal money, there is the building the road, but there's the engineering, the NEPA process, which will take you years. There's the property acquisition. And to get to construction, sometimes that's, one of the quickest. It takes longer to get to construction than actually build the road. And so, you have to have the money to cash flow these things while you're waiting on federal reimbursement. And I will say that I think that Brad has done a tremendous job of helping policymakers and just everyday citizens understand the process and give them, this is what we deal with when we accept federal money. And so having that revenue that he can go to, I think is really important, particularly when you're often waiting, months on reimbursement.
Yeah, certainly a problem. And in our cities and towns, Mayor, across the state, they're sort of different stages with respect to the quality of their infrastructure and just the condition of it, right? We got about a minute left.
Well, I think that you've had a lot of towns that went decades back in the latter part of the century on addressing water and sewer stuff.
Yeah.
And I think, I think every town has those issues. And so to have a legislature who will partner with you to provide some one-time money, Delbert Hoseman's MCWI matching program for our ARPA funds has really been game changers. But, we've got to continue to keep our eye on the ball when it comes to infrastructure. We certainly have a more friendly legislature right now, and I hope that continues.
Appreciate you coming on, Mayor. Good to see you. Thanks for your service over this past year as president of the MML.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.